Okay, guys, time to witness an exercise in futility. These tradcons, uh, Back to the Roots is the podcast. They're going to try and beg young women to be nice to them, to change their ways, see the error of their ways, right? It's a losing strategy. Now, this guy, Andrew Wilson, here he is here, and he's going to admit that he's a Christian, right? He's a tradcon. And this is his debate style.
At this like I would a normal kind of political debate, where I'm actually looking at the effects of what the policy is. So that's how my mind works, right? Is let's look at the policy effect. So for me, it's no different, right? What's the policy effect of secular humanism on society versus the kind of policy effect of Christianity on society? So what would
Now he's talking about secular humanism, but when he's debating these women, they talk about feminism. Feminism isn't secular humanism, right?
happen if a Christian were to say, I came to all of my Christian views and Christian ethics absent God. So I was an atheist, but I believe all the same stuff that Christians believe.
Okay, so this guy he's a Christian who's trying to disavow being a Christian, right? Sorry, you can't have it both ways, Wilson, right? Now, the Christian views, in other words, he's saying women join the church and become the good little girls who love us, right? The trouble is, Wilson, the churches are filled with women. They're filled with women already. These women, these Christian women, simply reject or ignore any church doctrine that doesn't benefit them, right? So any limit on their behavior placed upon them by the church, they simply ignore it or change the rules, right? So Christianity is a dead end. Anyway, we'll get into what this guy has to say.
This podcast is misogynistic. Is that correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Now, to get these girls in here, they have to limit their debate style, right? You know, any good debater should not be coming out and saying, you know, anyone trying to defend the male position should not use the word misogynistic ever. They should be coming out and saying misogyny doesn't exist, right? But they need to give into these women's frame just to have them show up. And by the way, where are all the older women, right? Two things. One is these older guys want young women, beautiful young women around, right? Two, the older women already got what they want from men. These women are here to rinse these guys. It's a Ponzi scheme. These guys, Wilson and this guy, whatever his name is, he's got the shirt called whatever. They get young guys on to watch these dead-end debates that get us nowhere. Young guys give them money, so they're gaining status off those young guys. And these women come in and get status off the men for free, right? That's how it works. It's a Ponzi scheme where the women benefit and the men fail.
I think that a lot of the conversations surround discrediting misogyny and essentially criticizing women on a hypercritical lens. I mean, I'm not saying specifically you, but I would.
Yeah. So anyone who discredits, listen to the word she used, anything that discredits what we have to say is misogynistic. And so that just proves you that misogyny just means a man who doesn't know his place. You got to know your place. You're supposed to believe in our lies, right?
Say, as you were saying, with the mass implication of media, I do think a lot of commenters or a lot of conversations are sparked in misogyny because it is a controversial topic, and it's a topic that can be.
So controversy equals misogyny, right? Misogyny is just anything that these gals don't like. That's true, right?
very reactionary for women.
Well, didn't you, when I asked the question earlier, didn't you just outright say, yeah, I think the podcast is misogynistic?
I was reading from what I had said a year ago, and the
No, but
notion that
A year ago. Okay, so this woman's already been on here rinsing these guys. Now here she is again. So it's been a whole year, whatever. And has she changed her ways at all? How many women are there? Like 7 or 8? Only 2 of them speak. The other batch just sit there and keep their mouths closed. They have nothing to say.
Didn't you tell my staff that the podcast, Nick, did she?
I said I was blocked on Instagram because I called that podcast misogynistic.
I don't even think in your original messages, did you even say misogynistic?
Yes, I did.
I think
If
you
you
said
wanna pull it up
exploitation.
again.
We could pull it up again really quick, just so I can scan it. Nick? I mostly zoned in on exploitation. There's a lot of exploitation.
Yes, there is a lot of exploitation in this podcast. These women are exploiting you men, and you men are exploiting the men who give you money to watch this fiasco, right? Remember, it's always projection.
Young women, women of color, hyper, it's up. I don't know if I saw an accusation of actual
regardless,
misogyny.
I'm sure my prospect of downplaying the woman experience was centralized around misogyny. Yes, that's correct.
But
Yeah, calling out your bullshit. Yeah, that's right. All right. Again, guys, what's the point of this? Like, these women wouldn't be here at all if these guys just brought the hammer down and said that that's all lies. Ended the debate. There's nothing really to debate. So you have these desperate tradcons hoping these young ladies will come and partner up with them. Dude, you're a very typical Christian, right? You're a very typical Christian. It's all about the spiritual, yet supposedly, yet everything's about the physical in the end. If you're a Christian, you shouldn't give a shit whether women procreate with men. That's worldly matter. None of this matters. The world could end tomorrow. What matters to you as a Christian is to go to heaven. The whole world could die. It doesn't matter. That's just the material world. Yet notice all these Christians are even further embedded into the material world than non-Christians.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think you indicated either behind the scenes, in messages, or even on the show that you view the podcast, I don't know if it's myself, as misogynistic.
Yes.
And then I think you did too?
Yeah, I mean, can I ask you a question and you respond to it, engage with it like in good faith and so genuine?
Well, allow me to ask a couple of my questions.
He didn't, did he? Because he can't. Because if he tells you the truth, the debate's over. The so-called debate. Right? So he can't be. I mean, look at what these guys do. Why do they have people dressed as Nazis in the background? Right? Why? Are these guys pro-Nazi? Or is it just this is the cringe-inducing effort to say, hey, we're edgelords, right? But this kind of edgelording damages their position. People aren't going to take these clowns seriously. These women don't take men seriously, on a large scale, but they really see these guys as jokes, right? Also, what's the point of having these Nazis when obviously all you guys would bang these beautiful black women in a heartbeat? Racism is a form of misandry because all racism is targeted against men, right? All these racists end up jumping on foreign, no, I shouldn't say foreign women, but non-white women in a heartbeat.
First, but you think that the podcast is misogynistic?
I believe that you benefit from misogyny, and I think that it has
benefit
misogynist.
from misogyny.
Well, here's my question. I'm just going to ask it.
Well, hold on. I'm in the middle of.
Well, you asked me a
She's going to just let her ask a question, then you can give her the answer. You're the master debater, aren't you? Right? Right. So they benefit from misogyny, right? You should say misogyny doesn't exist. That's the end. That should be or I should say the starting point, right? That should be the start of the debate. But he gives into her frame in order to have her around. That's why these debates are a waste of time, right? There's nothing to debate anyway. You know, these women are telling a bunch of lies. You just say, no, you're lying. And that's it, right?
question. My question
conversational
is a
thread-
response to what you just asked. Why do you think it is that every person who sends you money is saying something misogynistic if you don't benefit from
Are you
misogyny?
new to the internet? Like, do you realize how
He wasn't being honest there. She actually did make a point. Young guys are watching this podcast and sending money in, right? And he's benefiting from it. But he's benefiting from misandry. And this is why these guys have to be dishonest. Because if they were totally honest, they would say, no, we're actually misandrist and we're benefiting from misandry. We're allowing a bunch of young women come on and tell bold-faced lies about reality that demonize men. And we're getting paid good money for that. All in the hopes that you misandric young women will bet us. Right. Now, these guys aren't going to be honest and paint themselves as the villains. So, of course, this guy is just going to, you see, that's why these two women are smiling. She said, this woman gave you a gotcha question, right? It wouldn't be a gotcha question to me, but it is for this clown.
when you have anonymity and you have just total on YouTube, these are all anonymous people. Super toxic.
So people are toxic just because they're anonymous, but also how does that answer the fact that they're giving you money and you're accepting it?
I don't co-sign. I even said I
You might
disavow
not
some of their
co-sign, but I'm
statements.
asking.
Well, notice like this woman says, he says, do you call me misogynist? She said, oh, not you, just the guys in your, you know, they're your guys just giving you money. See, there's always placing it to another person, right? And these guys are the same way. They said, oh, wow, we're accepting money from these guys, but, you know, we ourselves are not misogynistic, you know, begging.
Asking why. I mean, none of it's like, say,
Look.
anti-Semitic. None of it's like other isms that we could do with our anonymity. It's all sexism and misogyny. So why do you think those people are watching you and sending you money, if not you benefiting from misogyny and stoking that for your own personal benefit?
Well, I think you're making a lot of assumptions there
No,
that
I
are
mean,
not
you can
based
look
in
and you can
reality.
That's not an answer to a question, though, is it? You're making a lot of assumptions, right? Why didn't he say, no, I'm not? Right?
At all.
You can read the comments and say they're misogynist. If you say they're not, that
We're-
doesn't make
we're
them
doing
not.
a live-
Fine, then all the commenters who comment on your behalf are misandrous then.
Sure. Go for it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, wait.
You see, there you go. You see, she doesn't give a shit, right? These women don't have any stance other than you men don't know your place. We're here. They're here. They're dining to have you guys bask in their company, and they know it, right? They have nothing to gain by changing over to your side. They have nothing to lose by staying the same attitude. This young lady talked about a year ago. Has she changed any?
Yeah,
Well-
that makes a lot of sense, right?
So, again, everything's anonymous. As a man, I don't know how to take responsibility for what other people say. So I can have a conversation about the things that I discuss on the podcast, but I can't be like, I don't know how to be responsible for what somebody else says, especially somebody who says it anonymously.
Yeah, but you can say whether you agree with them or not. Right? You could say, okay, say something that someone is misogynist, particular, right? And say whether you agree with that or not, right? So this guy's just running away, right? All you tradcons are beggars and cowards. Every one of you. You know, this is a losing proposition for men, these two groups. These are opposite sides of the same coin. Both groups are misandrous, tradcons and feminist. Right? Now, this goes on for about a half hour. I don't know how much more I actually need to say about this. Right? These two gentlemen have a Ponzi scheme going on, right? Where they're rinsing young guys, giving their money to them to have these faux debates, basically, where these women come and snub them and say, you know, it doesn't matter what our arguments are. Our positions are that you guys are losers. We don't want anything to do with you. What are you going to do, right? What are you going to do to change our minds? Right? I'll skim ahead and see if there's anything worth listening to. We'll go a little further.
Responsible for it, but I think you benefit from it and you intentionally engage with those comments and you stoke that kind of discord.
Did you say you consider yourself a feminist?
I do.
Okay, so you benefit from a misandrous system. Now, I'm one podcast, I have...
So there you go. This is what I'm talking about. So she says, I disagree with that. You should be hammering on that. And saying how feminism is absolutely misandric, right? He doesn't go there, right?
You were talking about systemic, what was the other word you used? There's systemic, and then there was another word I'm trying to remember.
Institutional?
Institutional. So I have one podcast. You're a feminist. I have.
So why isn't he going right to the core of the problem? Right? Why isn't he saying, no, you're institutionalized. No, you're the hate movement. Right? Instead, he just goes on like, I'm just a small podcast and you women have all the power. And by doing this, he's stoking their egos because they're going to have a bunch of smiles on their faces.
Absolutely no power compared to the absolute Goliath that is feminism. You're laughing every single
laughing, right? Right? Because this loser, this beggar, doesn't know how to tackle the situation. And neither does his pal Andrew. Right? You shouldn't be saying how powerful you are. You should be saying your movement is a hate movement and it should be erased for the good of society. That's what he should be saying. Right? I'm not going to go any further than this. Wait, I will, because I want to show you that these guys send these guys money, right? Look, $200 donated.
I mean, yeah, because they're benefiting from the misogynists who are watching.
But you're also benefiting from the misogyny.
I already admitted to that. Sure. Today I'm making money.
You're an idiot giving into her frame. She's not benefiting from misogyny. She's benefiting from misandry.
How is this even a criticism then?
I don't even
Wouldn't this mean that misogyny was good? Wouldn't that mean misogyny is good if you're benefiting from it?
I don't even really understand.
There we go. Yeah, some guy talks about Rush Limbaugh, right? And gives $200. So this guy is a loser. He gave $200 of his hard-earned money to guys who are begging attention from beautiful young women who don't respect them, who are never going to change their ways. It's not going to change anything in society. These are useless debates, right? It only benefits all the people on screen, right? Again, here's this older man. He's Christian, right? He goes to church, supposedly, where they're filled with women, great Christian women. How come he isn't partnering up with them and saying it doesn't matter what these women do because there's all these great Christian women around, right? I could out-debate this loser. I said, why are you bothering with these young women? Just partner up with one of your Christian women who believe in your back to roots. And these guys say back to roots. What they mean is women put the mask on, pretend you like us again. No, thank you. Anyway, Andrew Wilson, you're just another TradCon loser, you know. You're the ultimate hypocrite, by the way. You know, you talk about Christianity, and Christianity is supposed to be about the spiritual world, and all you Christians ever care about is getting your dick wet, right? Getting female validation, living in the material world. That's what you actually care about each and every time. The most spiritual man I've ever met or meet are always men who aren't Christians, right? I've got to go to the secular world to find the spiritual world. That's the sad part of this. We'll end it here.